A woman's carrying swordfish heads in Cartagena, Spain in 1951. The photo was taken during the filming of King Kong in 1933. Bob Marley is on a beach with Miss World 1976 Cindy Breakspear, who is the mother of Damian Marley. Reporters are watching a nuclear explosion. This happened on June 24, 1957, during Operation Plum Bob. Robert De Niro carries an armful down a street near Grand Central Station, New York, around 1970. Telephone exchange employees in New York, 1896. James Baldwin with a cigarette, 1969. Theda Bara in the lost movie Cleopatra, 1917. Brigitte Nielsen and her then-husband Sylvester Stallone at the premiere of Beverly Hills Cop 2 on the 20th of May, 1987. Never seen Stallone this small before. Cameron Diaz, 1989. Here are two Maori women guides, Eileen and Pipi, outdoors in front of Tapuia, which is a Maoripe, or fortress. The Greenwich Village townhouse explosion happened on March 6, 1970, in New York City, United States. Members of the Weather Underground, which was an American leftist militant group, were making bombs in the basement. Nicholas II, Empress Alexandra, Grand Duke Boris, Princes Andrew and Kirill, Grand Duke Ernest and Grand Duchess Victoria Melita of Hesse, and Prince Nicholas of Greece, 1899. Alain Delon is playing with a Cinecamera. This was in Venice in 1962. PC gaming in the 1990s. Pablo Picasso and Brigitte Bardot outside his studio in Vallauris during the Cannes Film Festival, 1956. Countess Elizaveta Vasilyevna Musina Pushkina, 1903. This is a portrait by Napoleon Seroni, and it's from 1893. The portrait features a person wearing a hoop skirt. Arnold Schwarzenegger on the day he became a U.S. citizen in September of 1983. The San Francisco Mission District is burning after an earthquake in 1906. Courtney Cox, 1987. Mexican Punks in the Metro, 1980s. Claudia Cardinale in The Hell with Heroes, 1968. Michael Jackson met Benny Hill in 1992. Elsa Lanchester as the iconic Bride of Frankenstein from 1935. All right, here we go. Pepa Flores, the beautiful Spanish singer, actress, and bride. This was in 1969. There are 3 Maori women at Paranui in 1902. Gwyneth Paltrow and Brad Pitt, 1997. Ted Bundy's mother, Louise Bundy, is talking to him before his death in 1989. She refused to believe what he did until the end. American soldiers are listening to Sunday service in the ruins of Coventry Cathedral, England in 1945. Marilyn Monroe, 1950. There's a floating British Mark IX tank in Hendon Reservoir on November 11, 1918. It's a multiple-barrel firearm. This is the pepperbox pistol from the 1800s. A British cruiser tank is being unloaded at a port in Egypt on November 17, 1940. It's one of a large number that had just been shipped there by British forces. (1945) Russian soldiers in Berlin. A squad of German soldiers is passing through a Greek village during the occupation of Greece in May 1941. Nazi Germany has no place among the civilized nations. There was an American anti-Nazi protest in Los Angeles after the Kristallnacht pogrom in 1938. Queen Elizabeth, along with the 18-year-old Princess Elizabeth, is visiting the 6th Airborne Division on Friday, May the 19th, 1944. A sign reads, "Kill the Communist for Christ," at a pro-Vietnam War demonstration in New York, 1966. A demonstration of the correct procedure in applying street makeup in a home management class at Woodrow Wilson High School, Washington, D.C. This was photographed by Esther Bublé in October 1943. Snoop Dogg is smoking a joint and giving the middle finger, just like the icon he is, during a photo shoot in 1999. Drive-in from the 1950s. Linda Christian, The First Bond Girl, 1945. Patrick Swayze and Brooke Shields, 1988. A child from Thokoza Township is looking at a South African Defence Force soldier. The soldier is watching the street during political violence between the ANC and the IFP. This happened in Thokoza, South Africa, on April 13, 1994. Lesbian couple Evelyn Jackie Bross, on the left, and Catherine Barsh, on the right, are at the Racine Avenue Police Station in Chicago, June 5, 1943. They were arrested for violating a cross-dressing ordinance. A woman is in Berlin, Germany, and she's using a coin-operated device to buy a clock. This was in the 1960s. Harrison Ford, photographed by Dennis Stock in 1973. There's a description of slot machine players in Las Vegas, Nevada, around 1940. Hermann Rorschach, famous Swiss psychiatrist behind the Rorschach test. The Cabin Boy, 1865. A telephone operator is at the Moscow City Information Service at phone 09. The photo was taken by N. Maximoff in 1962. The founder of modern Saudi Arabia, King Abdulaziz, around the years 1920 to 1930. Miners were in Aubin Ravine, California in 1852. Checking the Catch, Nha Trang, Vietnam, 1950. Michelle and Barack Obama on their wedding day, October 1992. Sophia Loren on the set of Madame Saint-Jean, 1961. A patient is getting a lateral cerebral diathermia treatment in the early 1920s. Diathermia used a galvanized current to jolt psychosis sufferers. Doctors eventually decided it was unsafe and unreliable. Actress Heather Locklear poses in the early 1980s. Jim Parkinson is driving his 1935 Wright-Craft, a tiny British vehicle, through the streets of Tokyo during a world tour in 1965. a futuristic baby carriage in West Germany during the 1950s. Miss Italy and Miss Sweden are going at it during an international women's boxing match in Stockholm, 1949. David Bowie and Elizabeth Taylor, Beverly Hills, 1975. Soviet Marshal Kliment Voroshilov is showing the sword of Stalingrad to Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Winston Churchill and Joseph Stalin are looking on. Voroshilov accidentally dropped the sword in November 1943. Ruth Handler, an executive of the Mattel Toy Company, is posing with a collection of Barbie dolls. A parade of 8,000 to 15,000 black people, organized by the recently founded NAACP, silently marched down Fifth Avenue in New York. The march was a response to the recent racially motivated attacks on July 28, 1917. She'd mingle in crowds, approach wealthy men and pretend to faint right into their arms. While they were busy catching her, she'd pick their pockets. There's a group of boys playing in a cemetery in the UK in 1948. Bill Murray and his eldest son, Homer, are with Dan Aykroyd on the set of Ghostbusters from 1984. Detroit police used tear gas to quell clashes between white and black Americans. Later, United States troops intended for World War II had to be deployed to stop the violence. This happened in June of 1943. French artist Jacques Lehmann painted a portrait of his cat in 1924. The ball turret gunner position was the worst to hold during World War II. The ball turret was a cramped sphere, barely large enough for one person. Located on the underside of the bomber, the gunner was suspended in the open air. The gunner was exposed to extreme temperatures and limited visibility. With the added threat of enemy fire, the position was extremely dangerous. Comfortable fashions for men from the 1970s. A P-7 Neufeld and Kuhn metal diving suit is being tested in France in 1926. They're playing dominoes in North London in 1930. Copying documents during the Nuremberg trials. Documents often needed to be presented in 4 languages. It was at the Palace of Justice in Nuremberg, Germany, in 1948. The last Russian emperor, Nicholas II. Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Fashion show on the exhibition train, New York, 1949. Artist Gustave Courtois, born in 1852 and passed in 1923, painted bodybuilder Maurice Derriaz. As I understand, Maurice was his sometime lover, as well as his model. An ice cream seller, Constantinople, 1898. Giuseppe Morello, also known as the Old Fox, or the Clutch Hand, had a right hand deformity. It left him with one finger and resembled a claw, and this was in 1902. A giant teapot decorates the entrance to a tea house in Scollay Square, Boston in 1934. Biker Girl, United Kingdom, 1980s. The Slinky is a classic children's toy, and it's basically a helical spring made from metal. Richard James invented it in the early 1940s, and it was introduced to the public in 1945. Czech legionnaires are guarding a train in Siberia, 1918. Lou Gehrig signing an autograph for Frank Sinatra in 1939. A milk vending machine in London, England, around 1931. A young Bosnian fighter poses for a picture while taking a smoke break after a firefight. This happened near the village of Gucha Gora during the Yugoslav Wars. It was June 14, 1993. Tsar Nicholas II and Prince Alexei Nikolaevich are inspecting Russian troops around 1915. "16-year-old Hitler Youth member Kay Punzeler is listening to an American sergeant read out his sentence of life imprisonment for war crimes in 1945. Brooklyn Bridge, New York, 1900. (1977) Muhammad Ali and Michael Jackson. The Harlem Hellfighters were the first African-American regiment in World War I. United States commanders refused to let them fight under American command, so they joined the French instead. President Ronald Reagan is meeting Wayne Gretzky at the White House. This happened in 1982 on the 8th of February. Italy was liberated from Nazi fascism on April 25, 1945. Queen Elizabeth II is on her way to Westminster in 1952. A child's seat on a bicycle. Amsterdam, 1925. Jane Birkin, 1968. A woman appears with her cat. She's holding her feline companion in her arms. The woman has a kind face and seems happy to be with her pet. The cat looks content too, nestled closely. They are clearly fond of each other. The Le Mans Road Race, 1953. New York, street kids, early 1900s. Sea trials of the Brazilian battleship Minas Gerais, 1909. The first dreadnought to serve in the Brazilian Navy, Minas Gerais was scrapped in 1954. Led Zeppelin in Hiroshima, September 1971. This is the last photograph of the actress Sharon Tate, who died tragically at the hands of Charles Manson's followers in 1969. Marilyn was at Madison Square Garden in March of 1955. Ice was being delivered in the London smog, 1919. This is an advertisement for a Soviet Czechoslovakian moped called Stella from the 1980s. A textile worker is steaming a coat, and some curious onlookers are watching. This is Alexanderplatz, East Berlin, during the 1960s. A policeman detains a child, Cusco, Peru, 1924. Marilyn Monroe is coming out of a chopper to entertain the troops in Korea in February of 1954. Robert Redford on the set of The Electric Horseman, 1979. John Travolta, Phil LaMarr, who played Marvin, and Samuel L. Jackson in 1994. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the center leads a group of civil rights workers and black people from Selma in prayer on February 1st, 1965, in Selma, Alabama. This was after they were arrested on charges of parading without a permit. An Australian man is holding an emu from the year 1932. The Syphilis Clinic, early 1900s. Civil rights activists, the Freedom Riders, were beaten up by a mob after attempting a sit-in. This happened in Birmingham, Alabama, on the 14th of May, 1961. Bathing babies in sinks was a common practice, back then. The 1950s were a different time. A war veteran sells matches on the street in England during the 1930s. Miklos Horthy, the leader of the Kingdom of Hungary, is visiting wounded Hungarian soldiers in the hospital. These soldiers fought during the invasion of Carpatho, Ukraine in March of 1939.